Welcome back to another episode of the Illuminated Path podcast. And in today's guest interview, I'm so excited to welcome to the show Skye Della Santa. Skye is a breathwork facilitator and a somatic practitioner with years of experience supporting women through healing and transformation. Her approach is trauma informed, deeply embodied, and really creates a space for people to feel safe, supported, and empowered throughout the process. Skye is devoted to guiding people in recovery back to themselves, and she has an amazing 12-week holistic addiction recovery program, which we're going to talk about today, as well as all of the ways that her practices and her life's work is really about release, renewal, and reconnection. Skye and I got to connect as we were chatting about retreat collaborations, and she's going to be part of one of my upcoming retreats. And I'm so excited to introduce her to the ENA community because everything that her work is about is coming back to the body, getting back in touch with ourselves, finding ways to heal and recover, and using breath as one of those modalities. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Illuminated Path podcast. I'm your host, Liv, founder of ENA Wellness Collective. My wellness journey started with yoga, which led me down the path of exploring healing modalities like meditation, breath work, sound healing, mindset work, and so much more. This exploration inspired my mission to help others find what lights them up. Get comfortable and curious as we learn from experts, teachers, and creators who are lighting up their communities and living an inspired, expansive life. Let's dive in. So excited to welcome to the show Skye today. So welcome, Skye.
Thank you for having me.
You know, I'm a big fan of your name already because it's my son's name minus the E. But I remember when we first got connected online, I was like, yes, I love I love the work that you're doing. Obviously love your name and so excited to have you on the show to really share more about your work and what you're doing and how you're bringing, your impact into the world. So I wanted to start off, I love to ask people really about their path to what led them to the work that they do today, because it's often a windy road, as you probably know, to get there. And in particular, I wanted to kick us off with hearing about your experience with breath work. So I think yoga was really my gateway into the work that I do. And I often think back to the first yoga class I took and just how I went in so unassuming, right? Not knowing that that was actually going to be a huge part of my path. And I think that sometimes like we find the modality, but the modality also finds us. So I would love to hear about how you found breathwork, or maybe how breathwork found you.
Yeah, it's actually a funny story. It definitely found me. It 100% found me. So, many years ago I was going through a really tough time in my life. So for years I'd suffered, maybe all through my 20s, early 30s, had suffered anxiety. And I think once I had children, it came on a lot worse, and it would hit me when I would least expect it. It would, I didn't even realize, to be honest, I didn't even realize I was living with anxiety until it got really bad, until it got to the stage of having panic attacks. And it's sort of something that's just who I am. And then I went through a really hard time in my life. I went through like a marriage breakup. It was maybe one of the hardest times of my life, and it was rock bottom for me. It was really everything I knew was changing. The company I owned was that I'd shared with my ex was changing. The marriage was changing. Where I lived was changing. Absolutely everything was changing, and I had hit rock bottom in terms of how I felt. My anxiety was absolutely through the roof at that point in time. And I was in Bali at that point in time and reaching out to whoever, whatever I could do. Um, and I was seeing a therapist. I was doing like all this different alternative healing. I was doing energy work and all these different kind of modalities. And I ended up one day absolutely, just searching for anything. I went and seen a tarot reader or a medium. She was more like a tarot reading medium lady. And I did like an hour and a half session with her, and I didn't even hear a word she said. I was just cried the whole time. So don't recall anything she even said to me for this hour and a half long session. But as I was walking out the door to me, as I was walking out the door with her, she's like, I'm being channeled something. And she's like, I'm being channeled to invite you to do breath work. And at that point in time, I was like, it's the only thing I remember. It's funny enough. And I remember thinking, like, breath work, what's breathing going to do? Because I was suffering with anxiety. I was taking anxiety medication, and I thought, what is a few deep breaths going to do? Get away from me. And I left it. I left it and never thought about it again. And it was like over about an 8-month period, breathwork kept coming into my sphere. I'd literally never heard of it before. And then I'd heard of like a breathwork session, or someone was talking about breathwork, and it was coming more and more and more into my circle, until one day I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. See, I'm always keen to try everything. I'll see what it does. And I had my first breathwork session, and it changed everything. It was 100% my turning point of my entire life. I was so dysregulated at that point in time. And I had this session where something broke inside me, something shifted inside me. I'd cried tears that I had never cried in my entire life. And I walked away feeling calm, regulated. And that was really this turning point of going, okay, more, whatever this is, more. And I kept doing it as much as I could. And then through that, I was finding other modalities to weave in. And it really just got to this point of a few years, or a year or so afterwards, where I felt like a completely different person. And at that point in time, it was like, I'm amazing now. I want to share this with the world. I want other people that have gone through what I've been through to be at the stage to be at the space that I am. And it was at that point in time, I'm like, I need to learn, and I need to share this with the world.
Wow, so powerful. I definitely remember also my first breathwork experience just being cracked open. I was like, what is this? Like, so much emotion coming through, and just like really unearthing so much that exists within the body and through the breath. So, when you did decide that you wanted to teach and like really dive in and share it, was there a teacher that initially that you were drawn to, or like how did you decide, like, how do I take this a level deeper, and what did that experience look like?
Yeah, it was multiple teachers that I was working with. The very first teacher I worked with, actually, you're going to love this, name was Skye.
Perfect.
And that's how I kind of connected with him. And he was from Hawaii, and he had been teaching breathwork for, obviously many years. So he was my first introduction into, learning the breathwork. He was by chance in Bali at the time that I wanted to do this. So, I spent 3 months with him, deeply, learning the breath. And at that time as well, I was learning, becoming a Tantra practitioner. So I was sort of side by side learning those two modalities. And that was about a 2-year process. So yeah, it was definitely doing the two side by side, and obviously a lot of nervous system work that I was doing as well with other teachers really did help me get this very full knowledge base of taking people into these experiences, which can be, it's something that I don't take lightly, and taking somebody into a process is not something to be, it really does take so much care, so much education, so much understanding about the nervous system before we do take someone through a process. So, yeah, it was multiple teachers and many years, and really going through my own journey as well through it.
Mm. Yeah, and it is such a vulnerable space and state to be in going through a breathwork circle or session. And so I definitely see that, like, just having gone through a variety of over the years myself, is like it does require such care of like holding space and just knowing like there could be a really big range of things that come up, right? I'm sure you've seen across the board like all sorts of experiences that have come into. What would you say is your style of breath work? I know breath work is a big thing these days, right? And there's so many people call it different things, whether it's transformational breath work or there's different styles and methods. And so, how would you describe what you bring to your work?
Yeah, well, I mean, the style that I was trained in is like a conscious, connected holotropic breath.
Okay.
However, it's definitely formed, changed over the years as I'm learning more energy work, as I'm learning more touch-based body work. It's definitely changed into my own little version. That additionally, too, every session can be completely different. It's not like a set structure that I go to. I definitely it depends where the client's body takes us. I've had some breath sessions that has started as a normal breath session and has turned into something absolutely completely different, depending on what the client needed. So yeah, no, there's no session that is the same. I weave in so many different elements into my sessions that, yeah, like some could be just a very relaxed, if someone is highly dysregulated, it could be a very beautiful, relaxed breathwork journey, just allowing their body to regulate and to rest. Yet some clients just are holding on to so much, and sometimes the session could move into us like hitting pillows and us like going through, like I've had sessions that have turned into a wrestling match with a client because they just needed to be met in their anger, and they've needed to, really be seen fully in a full expression of something they're feeling. So it's definitely, you know, evolving, as the clients need whatever they need, we take the session there.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be the emotion a full spectrum of emotions, I imagine. Yeah, like from the anger to this release. And I've also had breathwork sessions or experienced it where like at some point I'm laughing hysterically because like it's just that like joy emotion comes up as well, or gratitude. So yeah, just such a full range of experience. And so you mentioned, or when I was reading a little bit about the patterns that you see in the work that you do, three words really stuck out to me, which was around disconnection, anxiety, and then addiction. And I know
Mm.
the piece of what you do is around holistic addiction recovery. So
Mhm.
share a little bit about how, I know you mentioned your own experience with anxiety and just dysregulation, that disconnection, but tell me a little bit about why addiction is in the mix and has become such a big part of your work.
Yeah, it was always something. I guess it would start with my own experiences of when I was going through so much anxiety. I was self-sourcing, anti-anxiety medication. I was
Mhm.
self-sourcing myself on Xanax or Valium or anything that could calm my own system, and it was very much an escape for me. And when I went through my journey, I noticed I didn't need any of that anymore, which was, one of the most beautiful things ever. And then I started having clients that were coming to me that were in AA and recovery programs and NA, and through that work, it started to evolve where I was just getting more and more referrals. And then I met the most amazing man who owned an addiction recovery center, which I started then working with him and his clients. And it snowballed from there. And I guess one of the things that I really realized when I was working with this, clientele is that no one that I was working with was dealing with it from a body-based standpoint. So many clients that I was working with had done years of therapy and they were still stuck. There was so much shame, so much guilt around everything. And it was what I was noticing is that it was the missing piece. I'm like, you can go to therapy for years and years and years, and you can understand why the addiction is there, and you can make full cognitive sense on it. But if your body still feels unsafe, of course you're going to still go and grab for the thing that makes you feel safe. Even if that thing that makes you feel safe and has saved you at times is completely destroying your life, when you're, in that space, I love this analogy. I heard this a few years ago, and I always, use it with my clients in addiction recovery. I talk about, going for the thing, whether it's drugs or alcohol or whatever it is. It's no matter how good your mindset is, right? I try and use the analogy of, I say to my clients, okay, I want you to hold your breath. And, no matter what I say, don't take a breath, right? Get your mindset right. I want you to use your strongest willpower, your strongest mindset, and I want you to hold your breath for as long as you can. I'll give you $1,000,000 if you can hold it for 10 minutes. Whatever it is, this huge prize at the end, hold your breath. And they'll hold their breath and they'll try. And no matter how strong their mindset is, when their body starts to say, I'm not safe, they take a breath. And that's the exact, way that I work with it. It's like until the body feels safe, no matter how strong your mindset is, you're going to grab the thing that makes you feel safe. If that's taking a breath in, if that's grabbing a drink, if that's turning to drugs, whatever it is, you're going to take that breath and you cannot outthink your way out of it. So, what I really do is teaching clients to multiple things of connecting with the body, of really working on the nervous system, of allowing safety in the body. But also a really big thing is you're not broken. You're not meant to be feeling amazing all the time. And this is like where a lot of the tantric principles that I work with come in, is life is a full spectrum of emotions. Some days we'll feel happy, some days we'll feel sad, some days we'll feel angry, some days we'll feel scared. Can we sit and love ourselves and be with all of those moments? So when we do feel scared, we're not racing for the thing. It's like allowing clients to really regulate themselves when they are having the natural ups and downs of the human experience, because it's like, that's what we are. I think, we've all been taught or all been given this Disney version of life that it's like, we should be happy, we should be feeling this, we should be feeling that. And it's like, no, that's not the vehicles that we're in. We're in this body, we're in this human experience, and we are meant to feel the full range of emotions. That is life, and that is the beauty of it. And it's like, I teach my clients that it's okay to feel all of the different variants. And I really teach them with all the different practices that I do to be able to sit fully in the emotion, and sometimes love the emotion. So I work a lot with men and anger, and to the point of, it's like, and I know me, I'll talk about myself, for anger used to be something I'd always shied away from. Don't want to look crazy, don't want to look unhinged, don't want to look this, don't want to look that. And so I suppressed my anger for so long, and now when I feel angry, I love it. I'm like, bring it on, It's like, what can I, how can I move this energy? Because when I feel angry, I've gone from thinking that I was like looking like a crazy woman to now I feel angry and it's like I feel big. I feel strong. I feel like I could like break open the world. And it's like, I'm a little person. I love feeling big and strong. So it's like really teaching, my clients that it's okay to feel the things and giving them all the tools that they need and changing the perception of those uncomfortable emotions.
Ooh, wow. Yeah, I imagine in the recovery, like working with people in recovery, that there's so much there to work with, like so much past work, trauma work, really getting to the root. Would you say that, and it's such a special experience to get to partner with someone that has a recovery center and really like weave your work into it. Would you say that breath work is getting more, I guess, a common thing that is showing up in connecting to recovery? Or would you say it's still just from, yeah, what you know about what's out there? Is it still sort of on the edge or cutting edge of healing?
Yeah, I mean, the it it's not as much as I would like it to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it is becoming a worldwide, right? It is becoming more known. It is becoming less woo-woo, because that's the thing. I
Mhm.
think it used to have this very spiritual, very woo-woo connotation, where it is becoming more mainstream now. I would like to see it much more mainstream, because I still have so many clients that are coming to me that have done years of therapy and have never done breath work, or
Yeah.
clients that are, in my point, they're going to GPs and they're getting prescribed, prescription medication, but no one's asking how their nervous system is. No one's giving them regulation tools. So, yes, for sure, it's come such a long way in the last 10 years, but I strongly feel it's still not enough.
Yeah. And one thing that you mentioned around, we've never been shown or like taught how to feel is like something that at any age, you can be in your 50s, 60s and be like, what is trauma? Right? Maybe I am, don't maybe I do experience trauma. I've never processed this. I don't know how to move through the emotions. And so how does trauma show up in your work, whether it's with recovery or just other people that you're working with? Like what are you noticing about how people are carrying trauma with them?
Yeah, I mean, there's big things and there's little traumas. There's a whole, the gambit of things. And I almost don't even like to use the word trauma at times, because what I believe like true trauma is it's something that the body hasn't yet integrated.
Oh,
Something that the body had to express that it hadn't expressed. And I think that's one thing that I definitely find when I take people into a somatic process is, we have these energetic messages in our body, right? Like a big trauma that may happen, something might happen, if it's like we'll talk about a little one, like maybe I go to work and my boss yells at me, or something happens, and my body has a big reaction, whatever. I'm walking down the street and there was a big argument or something happens and my body has a big reaction, but
oh,
my body goes into freeze, or I just know that this isn't the right time, so I hold it in and I don't say anything. And yet my body is giving off all these chemical signals of, run, do this, do that, but I don't do it because I don't want to look like an idiot, or I don't want to make a fuss, or whatever it is. And it's like my body hasn't processed that big energetic, movement that happened inside it, and then it gets stuck. And then potentially, I start changing, subconsciously the way I act, because there's this massive big energetic blockage. So a big part of the somatic practices that I take people through is, going into these processes. And that's, like you said, you had a big laugh one session, or people that have these massive big like outbursts of emotional release. And all that is with the breath, as we're moving the breath, the energy starts moving through our body. And when the body feels safe enough, right, this is a very big thing, because the body won't allow the thing to move unless it feels safe. But when we get the clients into this space where their body is feeling safe enough, then that energetic thing that may have been stuck there for 40 years, maybe it was one little thing that happened and then another little thing happened because of that. And it's years and years and years. Like for me, I'll give an example of, I had so much energetic blockages in my throat when I first started, through years of not expressing myself, through years of holding my tongue, through years of, not saying the thing that I wanted to say because I wanted to be loved, or I wanted to be liked, or I wanted to be accepted. I had so much of that energetic blockage through my throat that every time I would breathe, it would almost feel like I'd be strangled, because as I was breathing, the energy was moving through my throat and I could really, feel it. And it wasn't until I was really working with that and allowing that energetic blockage to remove, that I started speaking more freely, that I all of a sudden I felt safe to express my voice. So yeah, like I definitely see, it show up as energetic blockages in the body. And we just need the body to feel safe enough to finish that cycle, to finish that loop. And that is what, some of my sessions could very much look like.
ooh. Yeah, it's what you're saying is bringing me back to, so we had a for the wellness festival that I host here, I brought out a breathwork facilitator. His name's Eric. He's based out in Hawaii, and he led Guam's like first large breathwork session. It was like the first one that's ever happened here. There's about 100, over 100 people in one room. The what is it? The headphones on, silent disco
Oh,
headphones on, so
see? Yeah.
we could hear him, and so no one could hear each other, right? But I was there, as the host of the event. I was in the back, just sort of helping to hold this space. Really wanted to make it a safe container for everybody. So I was able to see a little bit of just what was going on. And it was crazy to see the things happening with the body, whether it's like someone kind of like dancing while they're laying down, or like just the movement, the sounds that come out, just like how everyone was just on their own journey in their own world, right? Their own path. And it was so powerful, just especially the sounds. I was like really hearing so much that people really finding those releases and those blockages. And after the session, everyone was like, wow, that was not what I was, it was way more than I was expecting to experience. I was like, yeah, it's just, imagine, for a lot of people's first breathwork session ever, just like your first one, it like unlocks something, and I was like, so powerful to get to bring that here to Guam, because there is a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of addiction. There's a lot of stuff happening on in the mental health, space here. And so introducing those practices and modalities, I think, is the start, right? The start of like a bigger conversation here too. So I know that you work. I mean, you have a base in Bali, but you work all over the world. You're virtual as well, so you can do. You've probably seen a range of cultures, a range of people, a range of cultures. Well, what do you notice just working like internationally, right? Of like different cultures, different people, different age groups. What do you notice about yeah, breath work and just like the patterns that you see that are not like location based?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there are certain regions that are not, used to a lot of like expressing their feelings. For sure, like there are different demographics that have just never been taught. Like we're so, yeah, different demographics that have just been taught to never express their feelings, to never really say what's on their mind, to be like a lot of suppression. Also like males and females, like I definitely notice I work with a lot of males. Um, and the suppression of anger is huge, working with males. They've been told that their anger is dangerous. They've been told that they're scary when they're angry. There's a lot of like fear based around, working with males, and like and like also, showing your emotions. Like so many of the men I work with, if they cry, they're weak. But if they're angry, they're dangerous. So I'm like, what emotion are you allowed to express then by society's terms? So yeah, I definitely think, working like with different demographics, and that's something that I've found really, we're all over the world, whoever I'm working with, it's the males that are coming to me that are, just never, they're terrified to show, their anger. And yeah, with a lot of the women that I work with, I find that's like the not feeling safe enough to show their vulnerability.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's sometimes it takes so little. Sometimes it takes just being witnessed. I've had sessions with clients that almost the session was over at the very start when they had relief of being witnessed in what they were experiencing. Even before we went into a breath work, it was like having being witnessed, just sharing with someone that, a certain vulnerability is almost, like you can see that point where it clicks and the shoulders drop and it's like, oh, okay, I'm okay to feel this.
Mm. Wow, yes, we gotta get you out to Guam because we've got a lot of work a lot of work to do. I actually really love that you work that with men and have so much experience working with men, because that is such a, a part of I just can see how powerful it is to work with men who don't have that many outlets to express like the way that a lot of women, seek these kind of spaces out. So that's really amazing to hear, and that just that connection of like anger and the different emotions, the full spectrum, being able to express in that way.
Mm.
Um, I know that probably as a teacher, you're holding space a lot for people. You're holding a lot of space, and it's a big energetic experience. So, how do you then nurture your own regulation, your own care? Like, how are you caring for yourself while you hold these big energetic experiences for other people?
Yeah, I mean, definitely breathwork is one of them for sure. And just a lot of regulation, like I think over these years, and I'm getting better and better, that I'm really learning what's mine and what's yours. But also noticing when I am feeling things to be able to move it out, to be able to, shake it out. Quite often after a session, like I always do a lot of water cleansing, just cleansing the energy off me with water, and then I'll shake, I'll move, so movement is such a big part of it for me, is just like allowing what is inside me to move, and a lot of regulation too, a lot of nature for me. I'm finding when I'm feeling my most dysregulated is when I'm not taking those spaces to be in nature. And it can be something so simple. It can be literally throwing my body in the ocean, for 10 minutes, and I feel a completely different shift. So yeah, for me it's a lot of yoga, a lot of nature, a lot of movement, a lot of expression, and I can feel, okay, now I'm back at my baseline.
Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. It is like the energetic hygiene connected to holding space in that
Yeah.
way, especially when you're in busier seasons or, virtual versus in person versus back to back. And we were talking before this on just like being in a busy season. So being able to call in the same practices that you teach, but back for turning it back on yourself as well. So
Yeah.
uh, I would love for you to share as we close up our conversation soon. I do want you to share a little bit about the 12-week addiction program that you have, and just share a little bit about what sparked. Okay, I'm going to create my own program. I'm going to take people through it, and yeah, tell us a little bit about how that program works.
Yeah, well, I think it was like I was putting together when I was working in the addiction, as I was working in the addiction field, there was so many practices that I had and so many different avenues that I wanted to take people through. And as I started to get more and more people contacting me online, I'm like, okay, I'm going to create this amazing 12-week program, which, which is, how do I say? So it's this beautiful 12-week journey that's stepped very mindfully as well. Like I would never do where I take you in week 8 in week 1. So it's like really creating safety in the body, like in the nervous system, and then taking clients through very deep layers of healing through inner child work, through working with the subconscious, with parts work, with just it's just this journey of like deeply, deeply understanding the why, deeply understanding who they are, and giving them all of the tools to move forward with anything that life faces. And oh, so the journey kind of looks like there'll be beautiful guided videos, guided meditations, and then once a week, I'm sit with my clients and we go through, a 90-minute session. So it's like everything that you learn that week and all the little homeworks and the practices that you learn, then, together each week we will deep dive into a somatic space, in an energetic space, however that looks, and deeply experience what we've learned that week. So it's such a beautiful program, and I've had, just my heart just sings when I see the shifts that I've had with these clients that I work with, that, by the end of the 12 weeks, they're completely different people. And that is the entire reason I do this.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like the program really brings like your whole body of work into like all the practices, all the tools, all the things that have supported you and your clients and just the learnings into that space to really go deep. And the beauty of, being able to work online and work with people virtually is like you can bring it to people all over the world, right? You can really open the experience to different people as well. So for people who are listening who are wanting to connect with you in some way, what are the different paths for people to work with you at the moment?
So I have my Instagram handle, which is Breathe with Skye, which I'll give you, and also my website, again, Breathe with Skye. So yeah, just get on there. You can see a little bit about me, and you can just connect me with me through that.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you reached out to me on, on Instagram and we were able to connect, and just the power of bringing this work and the conversations, now onto the podcast. And I'm excited to collaborate with you in future ways as well. And just, I breathwork has been such a powerful part of my own journey. And I feel like it's definitely something I recommend to so many people. And so it's really cool to hear how you're bringing in your experience and then layering on all the different other modalities to it to really make it uniquely Skye.
Mm.
So thank you so much for taking the time to be on today, and hope to connect with you in person at some point.
Yeah, thank you so much. I absolutely love what you do. So I'm so glad that we got to connect, and yeah, really it's beautiful.
Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, please rate and review, and don't forget to subscribe. Learn more at enowellnesscollective.com and connect with us on Instagram at enowellnesscollective.